If you are a faith-based entrepreneur and your mission is to serve others, then you probably already know how important it is to be functioning at your very best. Because the truth is, you must take care of you in order for your business to thrive and ultimately help and serve other people. And the reason why is because if you don't, you might end up hopping on the train to Burnout City and not even realizing it. And I know you know what I'm talking about when I say that too. Because the thing is, if you are overwhelmed and you're not sticking to boundaries or you're not taking care of yourself, it will show up in your business one way or another, whether it be right off the bat or later down the road. That said, in order to thrive in your online business and have the most lasting impact on your community and clients, setting boundaries in your business is crucial. And I've found that when you do set these boundaries and you stick with them, even when it's hard, you set yourself up for increased clarity, productivity, and performance in your life and business. So that said, I've got 3 boundaries for you to implement in your business this year in order to avoid burnout, miscommunication, and even some resentfulness towards your business. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive on in. Hey Queen, welcome to Reclaim to Reign. I'm your host, Hannah Brindley, daughter of the King, certified life coach, and faith-fueled business mentor. I know you are so sick of feeling like you worked so hard in your business with little to no reward while staying in this same cycle of self-sabotaging tendencies you know are keeping you stuck. And because of that, I know you are craving to end this never-ending cycle of self-destruction and cultivate a successful, Holy Spirit-led business without letting it become your idol. So if you are ready to be fueled by faith over flesh, fight your battles spiritually instead of physically, take bold action on your God-given callings, and finally create that thriving faith-fueled business, then you're in the right place. Go ahead and reheat your coffee, grab a notebook and pen, and let's dive in. Okay, my friends, let's talk about burnout for just like half a second, okay? Burnout is not a fun place to be. It is very overwhelming, it is very frustrating, and it makes you feel very, very stuck, especially when you are on a mission called by God and you know you are called by God to do this and you want to do this, but burnout makes you feel like you cannot, and it literally keeps you stuck. It literally feels like you're in quicksand, you're trying your hardest to get out because you keep doing the things and you have pressure to keep doing the things, but you just keep sinking and sinking further. I say all this because I have gone through my share of burnout time and time again. And in addition to that, I have also gone through my fair share of feeling resentful towards my business, which actually makes me feel very embarrassed to admit, but there have been times where I have literally resented my business, even though I have been so blessed by God, even though it feels like a gift from God. There have been times where I just felt this resentfulness and I didn't really know where it was coming from. And I definitely repented of that. But I'm saying this to say that if you are feeling burnt out, if you're feeling any sort of resentfulness towards your business, like you want to do it, but at the same time, you just really don't want to do it, I get it. I really do. I really do understand where you're at if you are feeling this way. And I want you to know that just because you are feeling this way doesn't mean you aren't supposed to be on this path. And I think that can be really confusing when you are in burnout and when you are in just feeling this resentfulness or resistance. I think it can be really confusing because part of you wants to do it and part of you doesn't want to do it, right? So that being said, I say that to say, just because you're feeling this way doesn't mean you're not meant to move forward. Now, it does mean that something needs to change, right? Something needs to shift, but that doesn't mean you aren't meant to pursue the mission that God put on your heart, right? It just means maybe it's time to go about it in a different way. And that is what this episode is all about, going about it in a different way. And for me, I really had to set some boundaries and some really hard boundaries so I could go about my business differently. So that being said, I'm about to walk you through the 3 boundaries that you can set in your business this year to avoid burnout. So boundary number 1 is to set work hours. I am serious. It is really important to set some work hours and stick with them. Really, stick with them. And I say this because I think when you work for yourself, it is very easy to let those work hours fluctuate a little too much. Or to kind of just let them, fly by the wayside, or you just fly by the seat of your pants. Say a friend just calls you up and they want to go to lunch with you, but it's during your work hours. What do? Do you drop your work hours even though you scheduled it that day? Or do you plan another time with them? And I think, there's a beautiful, beautiful balance to this. We get into business so we can have that freedom to dictate our own schedule. But at the same time, if we don't stick to the schedule that we set for ourselves, then we wind up not having a business, right? So that being said, let's just say a random friend from out of the blue that, you haven't talked to in years and years and years, and they're in town just for that, 1 hour, right? Like I'm being exaggerating a little bit, yeah, go ahead and go as long as you don't have like a client call or something. But if it's a friend that you see pretty often and they're spontaneously calling you, actually be like, hey, I'm actually working right now. Can we, reschedule this or table this for, Friday at 3 p.m. Reschedule with them. I think it's really, really, really important to set boundaries in that way, not just for yourself, but for other people. You have to take your business seriously first for other people to take your business seriously. That being said, my friends know when I'm working. My friends and my family all know when I'm working. My work hours are usually 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Like that is pretty typical and pretty standard. And they know that. So that being said, unless I change my work hours, unless I get notice ahead of time, or unless there is an emergency, right? Because it is important to, not be as strict when there's an emergency. I just had a family emergency recently and I've had to shift some things around. But that being said, unless those circumstances present themselves, you've got to stick to your guns. And it's very important for you to do so. So how do you do that? For one, it's really important if you have a family, like if you have a partner, if you are living with people, if you're around people often in your home, it's really important to communicate what your work hours are to them and actually adjust your work hours to work for all of you. And this is especially important if you have kids too. And, if your kids are old enough, have that conversation with them. Have that conversation and let them know like, hey, like, mommy's going to work from this time to this time and you can go watch the show from this time to this time. And after that, we can go play outside or, we can go get ice cream or something of that nature, right? I just think it's really important that when you are establishing your work hours, you are being communicative with the people that you are around the most. Now, in addition to being communicative with your family and your friends and your loved ones, it is also very important to communicate this with your clients. Set the expectations that, hey, like I work from 11 to 4, Monday through Friday. You will probably hear from me during those hours, but if you reach out to me outside of those hours, I'm going to get back to you within those work hours. Like go ahead and set those standards. Go ahead and let them know so that if you do receive an email or you do receive a message from them outside of those hours, you're not feeling pressure to get back to them right away because you've already set the expectation for them. So that being said, setting work hours are super important for you and your business. But now we're going to move into another boundary that I think is just as important. And that boundary is a very overarching one, but it's essentially to put boundaries on social media. Now, when it comes to social media boundaries, it can really vary from person to person. So, you do what works best for you with social media. But for me, I have found that I need to be pretty strict with these boundaries just because my business is on social media. And so I personally do not like to mix business and personal too much. And I feel like because my business is on social media, I need to let go of social media when I'm not in my work hours. So that being said, what I really try to do is delete all of the social media apps off of my phone after my work hours are over, and I will re-download them to my phone when my work hours begin again. And this has been so wonderful. And I talk a lot more about this in episode 49 of this show. And that episode is titled, I deleted these apps off my phone for maximum productivity, focus, and clarity. And if you have not listened to that episode, I highly recommend it. And if I'm being totally honest, I never thought I would do something like this. I've always been pro social media, and I still am, but also at the same time, I have really had to put some boundaries there to, really help with mental health, to really help me get back into my personal life brain and out of my work brain. Which, if I'm being super transparent with you, this has always been a little bit difficult for me just because I do have an entrepreneurial spirit. I have a business-minded brain. I'm super creative. So even when I'm not working, I tend to wind up thinking about work just because I'm thinking of all these new ideas and so on and so forth. So that being said, I have really had to put some hard boundaries on the social media because I already struggle with thinking about work anyways, so I've just needed to totally, eliminate any sort of triggers in that way, and social media was a big one for me. And so now that we're talking a little bit about, work life and personal life, I want to move into boundary number 3, and that is do not let your non-negotiables in your personal life fall to the wayside. I think it is very easy to release some of our daily non-negotiables in our personal life in the name of growing a business. I am very aware and I fully believe that sacrifices do need to be made when you are starting or growing a business, but also at the same time, what I'm saying is please do not sacrifice your non-negotiables in your personal life for the sake of growing a business. Because when you do that, you will start feeling resentful towards your business. You will have a ton of resistance. You will experience burnout. You will get overwhelmed. You will feel creatively stifled. You'll probably experience arguments with your family or your partner. I mean, it is just not good for anyone if you choose to sacrifice what is really the most important to you. And being fully transparent with you, this is one of the ways that I got myself super burnt out in the past. I was sacrificing a lot of time with friends, with family, with, going to the gym, with eating healthy, with time with Jesus for the sake of growing my business. I basically neglected every other area of my life besides my business, and I paid for it. And I really don't want you to make that same mistake. So my friend, please make sure that you are spending time with Jesus. Please make sure that you have a date night with your partner, that you are spending time with your kids, that you are going out and having fun with your friends, that, you are going dancing if you love to dance, that, you are getting your movement in every day. You are making time to go on a walk. You are, not, just going through fast food all the time because it's faster. and you actually are taking care of your body, those things are so important. And really, at the end of the day, if you sacrifice those things, you are going to feel resentful towards your business. No wonder I felt that resentfulness towards my business. I was sacrificing everything else that I loved for the sake of growing my business. And let me tell you what, that was not worth it. And I'm just sharing this with you now because I don't want you to get in the same position that I was in. Now, again, I'm not saying you're not going to have to sacrifice ever. You will. But I went to the extreme. And I basically isolated myself from everything else, and I got tunnel vision. And that created a really big problem and made me feel resentful. So that being said, again, there's going to be times where sacrificing is necessary, but maybe not in those non-negotiables. Maybe it's something else, like not watching 5 hours of Netflix a day like usual and only watching 2 hours of Netflix a day. Or maybe instead of just being super spontaneous with friends all the time, when you should be working, you actually schedule things in advance and work around it. That's what I mean by sacrificing versus isolating yourself from everything else and isolating yourself from those non-negotiables. There have been so many times that I've skipped out on my time with Jesus because I thought that I just needed to get, XYZ done for my business. No, that is not the most important thing. And I have really had to learn that lesson over and over and over. Now, that being said, that wraps up the 3 boundaries that you can set in your business in order to avoid burnout. So as a recap, boundary number 1 is to set your work hours. Boundary number 2 is to establish social media boundaries. And boundary number 3 is to stop sacrificing your non-negotiables in your personal life. Also, I should probably mention, if you know the Lord has called you to grow a Holy Spirit-led coaching business and you want to do it with these boundaries in place, then I would highly encourage you to just get on the wait list to my signature coaching program, Faith Fueled Coach Academy, or FCA for short, because the castle doors are opening up again so soon. So if you want to check out the program, if you want to read testimonials or sign up for the wait list, you can do that by going to www.hannahbrindley.com/FCA. And I'm also going to link that in the show notes for you. And I really hope to see you on the wait list. Bye, friends. Hey, Queen, don't head out just yet. If this podcast has blessed you in some way, it would mean the absolute world to me if you left a written review of the show over on Apple Podcasts. It truly lights a fire in me knowing how God has impacted you through this platform. And since I absolutely adore connecting with you, please, please, please screenshot this episode or your review and post it on your stories on Instagram and tag me at Hannah Brindley. I can't wait to see you over there. So much love to you.